All praises, all honor, all glory be unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace and salutation to Allah, Akim, doing and pushing his word in sincerity and truth worldwide, and a sincere shalom to the elect. Now I want to get into this real quick, this lesson here. Perform your duty until the unification. Okay, the day of unification. That's what I should have put in there. You know, we got to continue to endure on to the end, man. Okay? And one thing about that scripture in Matthew chapter 24:13, if I'm not mistaken, he that endureth unto the end, the same shall be saved. Okay? The key point there is endure. Okay? Part of this is we got to endure these things, suffer these things out here. Remember, scriptures tell you that, you know, arm yourself likewise, for as much as Yahushua HaMashiach had suffered in the flesh, arm yourself likewise, okay? Because remember, just like the scriptures said, they hated you first. Know that they hated the Lord first, all right? So what we're coming with the message that we're coming to the world is an unpopular message to this world, okay? And we're lucky. We're more than lucky. Because remember, the scriptures tell you that many are called and few are chosen. But out of the many that are called in the world, you know, that's not 1 billion people. That's not 2 billion people. That's not 3 billion people. You see the numbers of these camps. You see the numbers that the so-called FBI and all these other people put up there saying that, you know, vocab, he says about there's 6 million or, you know, something like that. Hebrew Israelites or something, global or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but he said 1 million or something like that around the world or in America, okay? So think to yourself how much people come in and drop out over the years, you know? So count your lucky stars that the Lord is still dealing with you and that his spirit is still abiding with you and supping with you, okay? Because many people have come and they've, you know, fallen out. But the main point here is the whole world, you know, this is an unpopular message with the whole world. They don't know it. Okay, they don't have a clue of what's going on. When we're telling them about, you know, what's about to happen and whatnot, they don't believe it, okay? Because the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is not working with them, all right? And another thing is, too, when you look at it, we have the 100% truth. I was just thinking about this today, you know, the name JC. And this lady said that, you know, that's the name that she knows. Well, here it is, you know, thousands of years later, they're using this J letter, which when he was roaming the earth, there was no letter J. He's a man, he's a Hebrew man, okay? But the thing that I want to say is that, you know, if I know the story, you know the story, and, you know, we're telling the story, then 100 people hear a different story, then 1,000 people hear a different story, then there's 20,000 people hearing a different story and believing it. You know, me, you, and the other couple of guys that have it down packed, that have the 100% truth, they're not going to believe us. Eventually, you're going to turn on us and say that you guys are liars. This is the truth, right? So, you know, this word is precious. So we should be jumping for joy that we even have a job, you know, to perform on to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. So let's go into something real quick, because it tells us that in what's the whole duty of man, okay? Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yahweh and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Okay, and we're lucky as Israelite men, okay, to know this. There's other Israelite men out there that don't know this. Never heard this in their life, okay? And, you know, some people, where were you, in a hole in the ground or whatever, stuck underneath a rock? Some people mind mentality is like that, okay? But the majority of people, they've heard, you know, our message. They know what we're coming with, right? So right here it says, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yahweh and keep his commandments. That's the whole duty of what we're supposed to be doing, man. You know, this is what we're supposed to be performing unto the Lord as a righteous people, a people made for righteousness. Esau, Edom, and these other nations, they were designed for wickedness. Esau himself was designed for destruction, right? And what were we designed for? We are designed to serve Yahweh Bashim Yahushai in righteousness, okay? But, you know how the story goes. So let's get back into this. So part of that serving, we gotta be doing these videos, warning, looking for the elect, right? That's a part of our duty. First Timothy chapter 5 and verse 8. But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, Salakia, he have denied the faith, and is worse than an infidel, infidel, unbeliever, non-believer. Okay, so the reason why I read the scripture, I said, hey, that's like the same thing that we're doing right here. Yahweh Shai said, go feed the flock. Okay, and we're basically, this is like you would say a big dinner. Okay, a big dinner, a big feast, and we're supposed to be there supplying as chefs, the ones with the job, right? The ones with the ability to do this. We're supposed to be chefing up some food and feeding people, right? Metaphorically speaking. So if you don't do that, you're just like a unbeliever, okay? You're worse than an infidel, okay? Because a man is supposed to provide for his family. That's the same in this truth. We're supposed to be out there, giving correction, breaking down scripture, showing people what's about to happen, telling them about prophecy, right? So in the likewise, same with this work, okay? Because if you hear this word and all of a sudden you just start chilling and you just stop, you know what I mean? You just stop doing what you're supposed to be doing. You've become like an infidel, an unbeliever, man. Okay? And we're supposed to be out here looking for the elect, feeding the flock. So in this truth also too, as it said, count the cost, man. You gotta count the cost. Luke chapter 14, verse 28. For which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first, and counteth the cost, whether ye have sufficient to finish it. Okay? So, whether ye have sufficient to finish it. Okay? Because you don't just jump in this and think this is some buddy partner thing. This is, let every man be fully convinced within his own spirit, within his own soul. Was that Philippians 2 and 12? Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. And this is what we're supposed to be doing. Our mind is supposed to be, glued to this work, working out our own salvation with fear and trembling. But this is not a buddy thing. This is not, oh, my boy's a Hebrew Israelite, so I'm going to be a Hebrew Israelite. You know what I mean? No, that's not what this is. And individuals like that, they didn't count the cost, man. They didn't really look at it and say, shit, the rest of my life I'm going to have to serve. If the Lord don't come back, in my time, right, I'm gonna have to serve this out my whole life, okay? On to death, all right? But we know, but the signs, the tokens, the prophecies here, that we in the end, man. This is it's only a couple months away, or maybe a year away, before this shit really kicks off, man. We're already in that snowball effect. We're already going down the hill, man. Okay? But, some individuals think this is some buddy system, or, you know what I mean? This is not that, man. And then they come in, they get disenchanted, and they fall out. And a lot of individuals, they don't gear their mind to, hey, man, let me stay in here for the long haul, enduring. You know what I mean? And a lot of individuals, they don't do that, right? So continuing, let's go to Psalms 96. What does it say to do? Sing on to the Lord, right? Psalms 96 and 1. Sing unto Yahweh a new song. Sing unto Yahweh all the earth. Sing unto Yahweh, bless his name, show forth his salvation from day to day. Okay? That's what we're supposed to be doing. That's why the apostle elders tell us, hey man, you miss a day, try to upload 2 or even 3, right? Because this is our daily duty. Okay, this isn't something that we just put on like a jacket and put it in the closet when it's, when it's raining You go to the closet, you grab the umbrella, you grab the jacket. When it's not raining, it's pinned up in the closet. That's how these other camps act. May, it's camp season. You're supposed to be constantly providing, constantly in that kitchen cooking, providing for that family. Which family? The Israelite family. Okay? Because the elect are spread amounts, right? So we have to constantly provide for them to see and hear and get locked in. Well, the Lord is the one that does that, Let them hear the word. John 3:8. Spirit is like the wind, right? So anyways, continuing. So we got to show forth from day to day, because a little fold in the hands, a little sleep, and that's it. Closing the eyes, and then you back in the world. Psalms chapter 61 and verse 8. So I will sing praise unto thy name forever, that I may daily perform my vows. Daily perform my vows. Doesn't the Lord look out for us daily? Constantly, consistently? Okay? So, if he's looking out for us daily, by the minute, by the hour, by the second, okay? Because he cares for his elect, right? And Lord will. That's why we always say, with a hopeful elect, right? Who wouldn't want to put their faith into that or hope into that? So, we got a job to do. Going back into Ecclesiastes, right? Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. Let's hear the conclusion of the whole matter. The conclusion of the whole matter is to perform your work unto Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai daily until the day of unification. Okay? Yep, let's go to Matthew. And this is going back into counting the cost too. Okay? Don't open up your mouth and make that vow, because you thought it was something cool to, like a gang thing. This is not no gang stuff, okay? This is men, being corrected and being reformed in the mind, okay? Changing their attitude, changing their ways to serve Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, recognizing that, hey, we fucked up, okay? We fucked up, and the Lord has given us such an easy route. I don't say it's easy, but you know what I mean? Go out there, preach. Do your work. Look for the elect. Call out to the elect. Okay? And in our daily lives, as you read these scriptures and you're being changed in the mind, you're not going to be as a dog that goes back onto his vomit. No, you're going to walk in those righteous ways. You pray to the Lord to lead you onto righteousness, no? So, Matthew chapter 5 and verse 33. Again, ye have heard that it have been said by them of old time, that thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. Okay? So, part of this, when you come in, you're making a vow, an oath unto the Lord. And you can't, double back on it, right? Because the Lord already gave you these secrets. You can't run. You got the secrets, bro. Like blood in, blood out. You can't just come and take these secrets, run around and make movies with them, and you know what I mean, make music videos, or like Killer Priest tried to do, right? The Lord will eventually fuck you up, man, because you're stealing from the Most High. Okay? Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 4. When thou vowest a vow unto Yahweh, defer not to pay it, for he have no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. Better is it that thou shouldest not vow than that thou shouldest vow and not pay. Okay? So, don't be a fool, man. When you come into this truth, that's it. There's a line that you cross. The red line. Okay? And if you want to be like these individuals, Proverbs chapter 26 and 11, a dog that returneth unto his vomit, that's how you're going to be when you defer to pay it. You're going to be as those dogs that go back onto their vomit, which is a filthy thing. Okay? Here it is, you got cleaned. Now all of a sudden you're wallowing in the dirt. You're back into the same mess. The Lord didn't open up your eyes, right? Per se, the Lord didn't open up your eyes so you could go back into the world. The Lord opened up your eyes so you can do this work. And remember, getting the blood off your hands. You're guilty. Job chapter 4 and 7, we're all guilty. Whoever perished being innocent, you know, these things the elect would consider, right? They would take it to heart. They would take heed, you know. But a man who defers to pay, man, you ain't loyal, man. Here it is, you come sneaking in. John chapter 10 and 1, you snuck up some other way, man. You know, you weren't wholeheartedly into this. You were just bopping along, you know. Oh, this looks cool. But anyways, our duty, we got to perform this daily. And, you know, the men who sat down and considered these things, counted the costs, you know, they're continuing to put up their videos and feed the, you know, the elect, okay? Or speaking on to the elect, looking for the elect, okay? And the hopeful elect, they're hearing it and they're doing the very same thing, okay? Numbers chapter 30 and verse 1. And Moses spake unto the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Israel, saying, This is the thing which Yahweh have commanded. If a man vow a vow unto Yahweh, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. You see that? The Lord looks at you as a loser, man, if you break your word. You know, if you break that vow. Okay? He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. And this also goes into Jephthah. You know, his daughter came through the door and he had made a vow unto the Lord that whoever cometh through my door, them I shall sacrifice. And that, you know, roughly phrasing, you know, and then that was it. His daughter had to be sacrificed. And I think she went for like a month or something with her friends through the streets or something like that, you know, being happy and bewailing. And I can't exactly remember, but yeah, you gotta be careful what you say out of your mouth. You know what I mean? And when you're coming into this truth here, perform your duty until the day of unification, man. Okay, we gotta constantly endure these things. We gotta constantly put up these videos. We gotta constantly look for the elect, feed the flock. You know, you're going to a restaurant. You don't just sit there and they go, well, there's no food today. We don't feel like cooking. You know, that's your job. That's what you're supposed to be doing, right? So the Lord gave us this job. He gave the Spirit onto us to perform these duties. So occupy with those spiritual gifts that you've been given, okay? Because, like I said, it's not given to much. It's not given to many. Sirach, chapter 32 and verse 1, If thou be made a master of a feast, lift not up thyself, but be among them as one of the rest. Take diligent care for them, and so sit down. And when thou hast done all thy office, take thy place, that thou mayest be merry with them, and receive a crown for thy well ordering of the feast. Okay, like I said, you know, if you're made, like I said, in a restaurant, you get a job title and you're a chef, you're supposed to be in there chefing it up, okay? Until the end of the day, close in, punch that card, and get out of there. This is the same thing what the Lord is telling us. Perform your duties constantly, daily. Feed, feed, feed. And at the end, don't worry. I'm going to give you a crown. You were doing your work too. Remember the man with the talents? 10 talents, 5 talents, and then that one ignorant one with the 1 talent, right? That hid his talent. We're not to be as that, because we recognize the severity. Because remember, the Lord could take his spirit from you. And that will sever you. Okay? That umbilical cord, spiritual umbilical cord will be severed. And you'll be doing what? Running back in the world like a fool. On to the day of destruction. Okay, because in the day of unification, it's the same thing. There'll be the 144 that's going to be saved, and then there's going to be the ones reserved for punishment, ultimate judgment. Okay. So, we got this job to do. We got to do it on to the end, And with that, Akim, perform your duty until the day of unification, man. Okay? On to the end. Matthew chapter 24 and 13. So with that, I hope you, Akim, were edified. All praises, all honor, all glory be unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace and salutation to all the Akim doing and pushing this word in sincerity and truth worldwide, and a sincere shalom to the elect. Once again, I hope you're edified. Lord willing, to the next time. Shalom Akim and a bud babal.